Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. It's me, John, and Shannon. I'm joined by Kieran and Powell. How are you, Kai?
Hey Jordan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you very much. Um, we've had our Ashes conversation, so I'm changing mindset. I'm in a more positive conversation now. We're talking West Indies cricket again, and the third ODIs we finished during the night, as well as we're going to discuss the Super 50 and how that's been panning out. But we'll dive in with the ODI. What did you make really in terms of how the ODI finished, really?
Uh, Not the greatest. I think we've sort of switched roles now where we've gone from talking about the Ashes and you flipped it back on me now talking about this. But I think it sort of looked like the batters sort of gave up. Like, the first half, it's again the lower order that, sort of stuck around and got up to the score that they got up to, which was never going to be enough. The bowlers getting, I think, 6 wickets, getting that many wickets in such a small chase. It's good to see continued efforts and improvements. But I do think that the West Indies missed a few opportunities in the white ball series to really get some wins.
Yeah.
Obviously, as I said, like they've got to address the opening partnership. Finding two people that they think can do the job and give them the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
Um, We've got to address obviously the form of Casey Carty and Sherfin Rutherford, but those are, in my opinion, the two right guys based on what they've done previously. And I think they have enough credit in the bank to be given the next opportunity to
Yeah.
go home, sort of, okay, this is where, we fell short on that tour or the past two tours and work on it before the West Indies play again and come back better players. Obviously, Shea has been in really good form for the past few months. So it's not much to touch on there. And then I
No.
think they need to find a number six that will contribute a bit more consistently. So I think, obviously the struggles stem from the batting unit's ability to put up a total
Yeah.
consistently that will challenge.
Yeah. I'm completely with you. I just felt as though, and you mentioned it, and I was totally with you. I think they just should have made some changes, just from a freshening up perspective. Shea, and Roston and the like. Just mix it up, just because they are going into a test series now, and also it just allows that it, that sense of it feeling like a long tour. I think you've mentioned it numerous times. Obviously, it has been since the CPL finished. They've just been on the road, and I think by just mixing it up and every now and then, it just keeps it a little bit fresh, and just keeps that sort of freshness in the whole squad. So everyone's getting that game time. Everyone's getting that involvement, but especially when you're trying to find there's still question marks over certain positions, like you mentioned, from a order perspective, and towards that number six role. If you've kind of got to tweak things around to maybe find those partnerships that work. So I do think they missed the trick a little bit with just changing, just freshening it up a little bit with some of the people, from a player perspective.
100%. But from a bowling standpoint, I think that the bowlers, obviously, these conditions will favor Matthew Ford. It'll
Yeah,
be interesting to see how he goes outside of conditions like this, on pitches that are flatter, which are generally the case
yeah,
in most other places. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes in more batter-friendly conditions. I think Jaden continued to improve and show improvement as the series went on.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, as I mentioned, you've got Alzari out of the team. Shamar Joseph isn't consistently an ODI player, but he does play ODI cricket.
yeah,
He's currently in the squad, so it'd be good for when he comes back as well to get continued exposures and opportunity to see how he can develop as well.
yeah,
So I think from a bowling standpoint, I mean, you can think about obviously the likes of Gudakesh Morty and Akil Hussain, potentially Jason Holder as well. So
yeah.
I think from a bowling standpoint, they've got a nucleus now. They've got pretty much most
100%.
bases covered. It's the batting. It's now down to building a batting unit.
What's the latest in terms of Alzari's injury? Is he close to returning? Is it precautionary leaving him out of the test squad, or have you heard anything at all?
I have no idea because, like, obviously they don't give any updates. I mean,
They don't share anything,
I
do they?
I could easily find out, but like, it's just, and then even something as simple as, we were talking about the likes of Evan Lewis coming back in and what impact that would have. And then you you start reading the comments and you turn on the TV and you see him playing Abu Dhabi T10 and you're thinking like, what the is happening?
Keep it
Like
clean.
what like
I know. I
it
know.
doesn't make any sense at all. It's because
No.
like you've had no update from a West Indian standpoint, series upon series, but then when a franchise league starts, you see your players popping up somewhere else. So frustrating.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's frustrating from that perspective. But from a obviously summarising up the from an ODI series perspective, how would you sort of rate the performance as a whole out of 10, really?
Four,
Oh,
three and a
right,
half,
okay.
3.5, 4.
Right, okay. I was expected to be a bit higher. Why so low just from that batting perspective, especially at the top order?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, once you start going into fives, that means it's obviously 50-50.
Mm,
Anything higher than that means that you'd have had a positive result or two.
yeah.
Yeah, so you can't necessarily go higher than that.
Yeah, no. A fair a fair case for that. So looking at the Super 50 then now that started. Unfortunately the weather has played a part, which is frustrating, especially with it being a shorter tournament as well. But what's been your key sort of takeaway so far from the games that they have played?
Um, well, I've been getting loads of messages saying that people are waiting for my review of the Super 50, in particular the Leeward Islands. So let's leave that for last and keep them engaged.
Nice.
But for the most part, obviously going to Trinidad at this time of year, this is rainy season, as you've seen and as I've mentioned, like the rain is gonna impact a lot of these matches.
Yeah.
The fact that these matches are every other day as well,
Yeah.
players' fitness is gonna impact their availability to play in these sapping conditions. Obviously, with rain around, outfields being heavy as well, so pulling on your legs, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do.
No.
Having said that, lots of games have had, especially the games at the University of the West Indies, because the outfield gets very saturated. So those two games have had no result.
No.
I think there's been a total of 5 overs bowled from two games being played at that ground. So
Yeah.
that shows how, I guess, far away UE is from hosting a full match. I think they'll need a good clean run of dry weather for a few days. If any rain comes sort of today, tomorrow, it could be trouble again for whoever's playing there next.
Yeah.
And that makes that like this weather being around makes every game you play have that much more impact because like you
Yeah.
need to get points on the table. You need to get victories in such a I mean, 2 rounds have gone. There's only 3 more rounds before the finals. So
Yeah.
some teams haven't even had a game yet. So it's a lot of pressure on the teams to, I guess, get get going, get some wins because it's a very unforgiving tournament style. There's not a lot of chance for you to come back from a bad start. I
No.
think Guyana in the game that they played looked really good. They got
Yeah.
287, if I'm not mistaken. And, normally, from what I know from Guyana from over the years in recent times, that would be a fast stretch for them in terms of 50 over cricket. So
Right.
it
Okay.
looks as though they've come in this year and they've made some changes. They've got some younger players in, and those guys look to be more suited to, I guess, modern day 50 over cricket, which is good. Good for
Right.
them,
Okay.
good for West Indies cricket as well.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
it's always good to see Guyana being competitive in 50 over cricket. I think that Trinidad last night looked a cut above Jamaica. Jamaica sort of seems to be a bit samey as well. They probably have to refresh at some point soon. And refresh doesn't mean necessarily, in my opinion, going with all the young players, but
Right, okay.
you know, I think the loss of a Brandon King and a John Campbell, it seems like it's just two guys, but that has a huge impact on the fortunes of Jamaica cricket when they are playing and when they aren't playing. Um, so they probably need to find some young batters that can be more productive for them in the absence of these two guys. It can't just be dependent on those two guys all the time. Like the young guys coming through
Yeah.
need to start showing that they're capable of providing scores and some level of consistency for their own careers as well. Um,
How,
so
how, how else do how else do you bring in a refresh without making player changes? Is there things that you can do outside of of bringing it, like you mentioned there, it's not necessarily bringing in loads of new players, but how else would you go about a refresh?
I think you could try different players in different roles to see how they handle with
Right.
that, how they cope with that. Maybe I mean you look at, for example, Australia today. You had Travis Head going out in the batting and score a
Yeah.
quick century and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just completely change things. But it's down to because they have young players. So how long will this young player cycle thing continue? And I'm not saying just go for all older players, but what I am saying is the young players need to start performing because they've been playing for 2 3 years now,
Yeah.
so they've been around, they understand what it is, and
Yeah.
you sort of need to start getting performances based
Yeah.
on the time that was invested into them.
Yeah.
So um, the other teams, obviously, the Leeward Islands, I can't say that I expected too much different from the standpoint of the bowling. The bowling attack is extremely inexperienced. It's a bowling attack that you can line up. It's a bowling attack that you can take down. You look at the first game that the Leeward played against the Windward Islands. I think that they should have made over 400.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
if you're 200 and odd from 25 overs. Even if you lose the top three, which did an extremely impressive job up front.
Yeah.
Uh, you still have to be able to regroup and then go again. I think what happened is Mikhail Louis got out driving caught on the cover boundary. Like you can't get out driving caught, and it's either you hit it on the ground or you hit it for six. Like you know, um, Kofi James getting his first list day century, opening the batting. Well done to him. Generally, what you find is when someone gets their first century, they get out straight after. So you sort of expected that, and because of the pressure you feel lifted
Yeah.
off
The
from you, the
relief
way
of
that
that.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So expected that, but then Carlin Bowen Tuckett getting his first half century for the Leos and then getting out, playing a reckless shot, in my opinion,
Yeah.
not necessary at that time, especially with Kofi just getting out and the rate at which they were scoring.
At that time as well. Yeah.
The Windwards are at their mercy,
Yeah.
but they opened the door and allowed the Windwards to walk in, have dinner, not even wash up the plates, and just leave without saying thank you. When you give them such opportunities, 200 and odd for three, let's say at 30 overs, getting bowled out for 324. I think it shows a lack of understanding of the game, a lack of seniority,
Yeah.
uh, a lack of leadership because there was a period there for me where they could have taken 15 overs to just regroup, just knock the ball around. As I said, you had 200
Yeah.
for two at that point, you know? 25 overs is a long time. If you knock the ball around, you get the next 100 runs. In the
Yeah.
next 15 overs, you're still 300 for three, for four. Then you could start going hard again in the last 10.
Yeah.
And that's how you'd have gotten to 400, in my opinion, as opposed to everybody just coming in and just going harder and harder and harder. Like, where's sort of the cricket smarts, where's sort of the cricket understanding,
Yeah.
not just the guys that went out to bat, but in the dressing room as well. Like, what's happening in there? Like, who's saying, okay,
Who's
we need to,
who's talking? Who's like,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what's happening? So that was extremely disappointing. Getting bowled out with, I think, sort of 4 overs left. But then
Yeah, yeah,
you look at the way they bowled. That's the first time I've ever seen Raheem Cornwall go for so many
no,
runs
I've not seen it. No,
in a 50 over game. Doesn't look like the normal Jimbo that I would have seen over a long period of time. Like it didn't look as though he was driving over, he was getting through his action. Like he looked as though he was just throwing it up there. And this guy Ned was and the keeper, they sort of went to town because it didn't look as though there was much on the ball.
no,
And it was just in the slot. And the other bowlers, I mean, as I said, very inexperienced bowling attack. So if you get in, these guys haven't been under that kind of pressure before, so you can sort of maximize. And the Leewards now have to look at it in the sense that the best the best place to play is at the Brian Lara Academy, and they'd
yeah,
have missed an opportunity to register some points because you see what's happening with the other grounds in terms
yeah,
of rain and no results, and you sort of taking control of your future in the tournament. You're sort of losing control of your future in your tournament when you don't win these games.
no,
Um,
no,
Going into the match that they played yesterday, coming off of that, and then you understanding that okay, there's rain around, that means that the preparation time won't be great.
no,
That means that there'll be a lot of moisture and dampness in the pitch. You're 14 for 6. Why are guys playing so expansively? Like everyone's trying to quote unquote beat bowling, but like it's you have to play the situation, you have to play the conditions more so than anything.
yeah,
How can you be 14 for 6 and everyone, for the most part, get out playing expansively? Like, again, who's saying what in the dressing room? There's no point coming back and, cursing the players and all of that. Like, who's saying what when the match is happening? Like, what's the planning? What's the approach? Like, what are you looking to do differently here? Because the game finished. I mean, I guess the umpires are really hungry, but the game should have finished before the lunch break. There's no point stopping a game to go for lunch to come back to get 28 runs,
no,
if we're going to be honest. So the game finished when the first inning should have finished. Um, and the way that Barbados batted, you could see that if someone stuck it out up front, the pitch sort of dried out, got better for batting, but it would have called for the top order to read conditions,
yeah,
absorb pressure, understand, yes, there's a lot of early morning moisture because of the things we spoke about in terms of preparation time not being great because there's so much rain around.
yeah, yeah,
Um, get through that and then look to get to 230, 240, and give yourself a fighting chance, you
yeah,
know? I think obviously we spoke about a young captain in Kareem Agua being under a lot of pressure. I think I like that he is sort of being put under this pressure as well early in his career because there's a lot of learnings to come from that, and that will lead him in good stead in the future. I think that he has to find a way to stay in the circle as captain. It's difficult to be on the boundary and then you can't communicate with your
no,
bowlers. You
no,
can't see the angles and all these things as you'd like. So whereas you do things differently as a normal player, as a captain, you have to be a lot closer to your bowler. You have to be able to set angles and just pick up different little cues of what the batters are doing and how you can make changes.
yeah,
And then from a bowling rotation standpoint, obviously, I mean, you look at the last game, obviously, Akeem Jordan got a 5 wicket haul, but you look at the conditions, um, as I said, sort of dried out, flattened out. And I think that the Leeward's best chance of winning that game yesterday would have been trying to bowl as much overs as spin, knowing that Barbados are normally the most proficient against spin as well. Um, so I think that they sort of didn't do themselves any justice because, okay, you look at it, if Raheem Cornwall was playing, he would have bowled 10 overs of how many overs has the Leeward Islands bowled? He would have bowled his full allotment
yeah.
until, you know, the game was over or
Oh,
whether it be he
as
got
damn,
through his spell,
yeah,
So you still have to have that same approach because for me, Kofi James has been underused, but yesterday he looked very rusty when he did bowl. So I'm not sure if he's been getting much bowling in practice as well. But even in
Right.
that first game,
Yeah.
him coming into bowl, I think the over before the game finished, I think his first over was the 43rd over.
Good
It was
point.
puzzling to me because, in my opinion, from what I know, and this is now going 2 seasons back, he's probably the best white ball spinner in that team. Um, and obviously, I'm talking about a team that Raheem Garnell is in.
Yeah,
And Kobe
yeah.
Vince, to
That's
me, is probably the best white ball spinner.
right.
So
Okay.
I don't understand how, for example, you've gotten through 2 games and he's bowled probably just 6 overs in the tournament. So there are some things to address, but as I said, I'm not necessarily surprised that the team that they selected to me looks like a team that's going to be good in another 2 to 4 years. I think the batting will come along a lot faster because you've got a lot more experienced guys, a lot more guys that are exposed, but you've got to find a bowling unit for this iteration of Leeward Islands cricket. And so that will take time because you see, without Raheem Cornwall, there's sort of a lack of potency there, like a lack of a wicket taking threat. So it's something that will take time. Um, if you've gone in full reset, you have to be patient and understand where you're at. But it's very frustrating knowing that you look, for example, of what you think a Hayden Wall should have been able to add to this team.
Yeah.
It's difficult. You look, for example, at Jason Mohammed and what he adds to Trinidad's team at 39,
Yeah.
scoring 87 last night. He's the leading run scorer in the history of the tournament. I think he's got 6 centuries, which is the most in tournament by any
Yeah.
individual batter. I know another guy that has 6 centuries as well. Can't remember his name. Um,
No, I'm not sure.
some guy. I think he would have a lot of experience and understand how to make a lot of runs in this Super 50 competition as well. But
100%.
experience is valued based on where you're from.
Unfortunately, so especially when you talk about voice, I
Yeah.
was going to say that, and like you mentioned about Hayden Walsh there, and yourself as well. Who who would be that voice in that change room? Do you think that you mentioned there? Who would you like to see? From that experience perspective, to sort of be that guidance for the younger team, really.
I mean, obviously, in that team, it has to be a Raheem Cornwall and a Jamal Hamilton.
Yeah.
Um, but even with that, I think experience is, they have their own limitations as well. In the fact that Raheem Cornwall didn't even play in the last match,
No,
so
that's
how much
yeah.
experience can he
Can
share?
it? Yeah.
Um, Jamal Hamilton, whilst he's been playing for a long time, he's been captain for a long time as well. Um, you're talking about people that have dominated this tournament, so um, he's talking from experience of playing for a long time, but from the fact of
Yeah.
having done
From a
it,
performance perspective, yes.
yeah, from a performance
Yeah.
perspective, like this is how you get it done.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. So it's tough going down 0-2 um, in a 5 game tournament when weather is playing such a big part. I think they're in fifth or sixth place right now. Um, Difficult to bounce back from.
Yeah. It is, and it's frustrating. Well, yeah, I find it. I find it sometimes. I do find the whole situation quite sad in terms of like we speaking about from a leadership perspective, and ultimately the value that you can still add to that side. Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, it's difficult because you know the work that has been put into building up a squad, a team, or whatever, and then things get destroyed, not based on performance, but based on personnel
I'll tell you.
likes and dislikes. So
It is, and that's
It's gonna take time. I think they have a good bunch of young batters. Um, but as I said, like just like with anything else, it's they need a lot of time, a lot of experience, and with only
yeah,
5 games being played in a season as well, that experience, that timeline gets dragged out more because it's you're not playing as much cricket, so the
no, of
experience is harder to come by.
course
So
it is. Of course it is. Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you, Kai. Just to finish, please let us know what you think about the from an ODI perspective. Kieran rated it obviously about what did you say? You said four, didn't you? Or three and a half, was it?
3.5, 4.
Three and a half. Let us know what you think. What rating would you give that? And also from a Super 50 perspective, what's your take as it stands right now? Who do you see, continuing performing wise, but also winning the trophy as well? Do let us know in the comments, and Karen will definitely get back to you. But again, thank you very much, guys, for joining us for another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. Thank you.